13. Where do I even begin with this game? Perhaps the single most underrated title I have ever played, 13 is an FPS released in late 2003, based off a French noir comic of the same name. However, I have no idea how this game ever got the green light. Cel-shaded with a comic book flair and single player only, with as much emphasis on stealth and storytelling as there is gunplay, this was not a title built for mainstream appeal. Back in the day I played it on consoles and thought it was an enjoyable, if somewhat frustrating game. Now that I've played it again on PC, how does it hold up? In a word, incredibly. Let's start from the beginning. From go, the game is a shock to the system. The jazzy tunes, animated comic cuts featured in cel-shaded graphics, and story which builds up a strange mystery regarding the shooting of the president and how you, a man washed up on the beach, might possibly be involved. Work together to ensure this is not like anything you've ever played, and they work well. Take the jazz themed songs which play throughout, quieting and escalating depending on the environment and situation. It's a fantastic soundtrack and a strange wonder that we don't hear more such soundtracks in games, considering how well it sets the stage for atmosphere and even emotion. There's even a cheesy little song you occasionally hear people singing in the background, a catchy in-universe pop hit, but it strikes close to home both with the larger theme as well as the protagonist's personal story. More obvious than that, of course, is the graphics. Cel shading has a history of turning people off to games, and I have little doubt this is an exception. It works here though. The opening moments of the game should dispel any notion that it makes the game childish or immature when an innocent young woman is pumped full of gunfire directly in front of you just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, the graphics serve the game extremely well. There's a comic book come to life with cutscenes featuring frames popping in, explosions, or other violent hits knocking the camera loose to show the comic frame at the edge of your vision. Moments of import or badassery cutting the frame at the top as they're encountered, and captions of different sound effects popping up to gunfire, explosions, footsteps, and the like. Moreover, this all makes for graphics which still manage to hold up as the polygons are much less noticeable as the game successfully mimics its source material, unlike other such games from the time period attempting for a more realistic style. Then there's a story. I'm not going to say what's here is perfect or amazing, especially that it ends with a cliffhanger which will never be fulfilled, but it is one hell of a ride. The story, as mentioned, follows the assassination of the US President as you wash up onto the beach, badly injured and with no memory. Small flashbacks are scattered throughout the action, hinting at who you are and how you're tied into the larger plot, and they're welcome additions between bouts of action and stealth within a chaotic conspiracy which has been driven off the rails, in large part thanks to your character. I'll resist saying too much more to keep from spoiling, but it is a thoroughly enjoyable experience with a genuinely interesting plot which keeps you guessing. It's unfortunate that the game ends on a cliffhanger, though it isn't so bad as other such titles in that the plot of the game is largely resolved. You unravel the conspiracy and halt all its plans, leaving the cliffhanger more a plot hook for a future title doomed to never come. Characters are fun and campy, exaggerated as you might expect from a comic-style game, and featuring David Duchovny and Adam West to boot. Not quite so much that they can't be taken seriously. The game walks a tightrope with regards to its characters, and does so successfully. They're fun without being embarrassing, serious without being stale, and fit the plot perfectly, making you question who should you trust and just how far the rabbit hole goes until the final reveal is made. Now all that's well and good, but what about gameplay? How does it hold up? Play the game on PC and I don't expect you'll have any trouble with it. This is a classic title from the era, meaning it mixes the tough action with tougher stealth, which isn't always forgiving. The game uses a checkpoint system which tends to send you a bit too far back, especially later in the game where you're forced to listen through in-game cutscenes and other plotting sequences over and over upon failure. And while I can see this frustrating people, especially those who are impatient or can't get the hang of stealth, it rarely became too much an annoyance for me. Weapon variety is everything you'd expect of the era. Fists with a backup instant knockout, throwing knives, a weak pistol with silencer, a more powerful and accurate revolver, a shotgun only good for close range, a wildly inaccurate AK-47 and its more powerful and accurate cousin with grenade launcher, M4, the beastly M60, the powerful long-range sniper rifle and crossbow, monstrous rocket launcher, And, of course, the deadliest weapon of them all, the dual-wielded Uzi. Enemies are fairly basic, becoming better equipped as the game goes on. They aren't particularly smart, but neither do they tend to last long enough to do much too stupid. They tend to sit down and shoot at you in a firefight, but neither you nor they will usually last long enough that you get too much a chance to call them out on their stupidity. And there's enough scripted sequences for them to throw a few curves at you and shake things up. Bosses are interesting, being typically little more than bullet sponges with a personal weapon, but the characters are good and their arenas interesting enough that they shake things up more than hinder gameplay. No, what I recall being the big hindrance back in the day was the stealth. It's very unforgiving toward the end, with missions which can end in failure from being discovered or, in some sections, even killing anyone. This isn't too bad on its own, but these stealth sections rely heavily on headshots, which are not altogether simple things to pull off. Enemies constantly roam around, meaning they can be difficult to get a bead on normally. But then added to that, the pistol requires 2 shots to kill, knife arcs, and a crossbow has a travel delay. This means ranged stealth on a controller takes a certain mastery to utilize, as aiming accurately for the head was hard enough without having to peg 2 shots in quick succession or accounting for movement and range. Fortunately, this frustration is nearly non-existent with a mouse and keyboard, and I found headshots came smoothly, in turn making the stealth segments run just about as smoothly as could be asked for. Altogether, that makes for an incredibly varied game. Missions range across a wide variety of environments, from beaches to deserts to jungles to the Arctic to military bases and submarines to shipyards and mansions. It's incredible the environment variety present here, and how the developers use those environments to keep things fresh. Put together with the aforementioned long list of weapons and frequent cuts between all sorts of gameplay, even within the stealth and combat segments, the title keeps things fresh throughout despite running for around 8 hours for a typical playthrough. So how then would I recommend 13? Highly. I consider this a must-play for any fan of single-player FPS titles, especially if you happen to be a fan of noir or comics. Some of the more fast-paced or arcade-style lovers might not be so fond of it, and if you happen to be using a controller, you flat out will become frustrated with the later levels of the game. It also doesn't contain some of the modern features many might be used to, of course, such as iron sights or grenades or melee on command, but this isn't that sort of game, really. It's a slower-paced one, which interweaves combat and stealth, often seamlessly. And hey, one with a catchy soundtrack and interesting story to boot.